is all this boiling ocean of fintech now actually amounting to anything?
Most of that innovation is built on existing payment rails, right?
To see the really big changes, you've got to look at fundamental network change rather than people innovating on top of the network. The retail banks in China have, it's sad to say, if you're a bank, lost retail payments to social media companies, to the likes of WeChat and PayPal. That's fundamental change. If you want to look at telcos, have a look at Kenya, Uganda, basically East Africa, where again, the banks are not doing retail payments business. The telcos are. It is all about networks, hey? The reason why the US is in such a strait is because it finds it impossible to shift its entire network at the same time. It's really kind of that simple. It's getting the network effect to work that is going to bring by far the biggest benefit. How do we all agree that we're going to do things a certain way? If we can get that, we can really bring the cost down a lot.
I wish more people appreciated the true cost of payments. What's so obvious and visible to people who are skeptical of the cryptocurrency market is the cost of mining Bitcoin. It's such a big salient number. You can observe it easily. It's so easy to calculate. The existing global infrastructure of payments costs a hell of a lot of money.
On that, we've now, to Chris's earlier point, we've layered tiers of correspondence.
The reason that there is a cost of payment is there's big trust and regulatory issues in this. If people want to make a payment, they want to know it's getting to the right person. There's a very expensive infrastructure being built around that over a long period where there's much more clunky processes. So, and I think just stripping all that away and using blockchain would really, reinvigorate all of that.
On a blockchain structure, the value exists on the network and it is being physically sent from one identifiable address to another. There is no need for any kind of RTGS or net settlement at the end of the day to true that up. It is now in this blockchain space. There is a single source of truth that 10,000 nodes can agree on, whereas in the existing payments network, 10,000 correspondent banks and their Nostro and Vostro account have to agree with each other.
You could get rid of some of the functions of a correspondent bank.
Crypto isn't there yet. It's not that it's not going to be, it's just not there yet. You've got to look for the networks that are changing. And that's where I think the bears, if you like, are pointing at Bitcoin and saying that it's not changing the fundamental network. And right now they're right.
For anybody who thinks I'm a blockchain extremist, I'm not. I think the solution lies squarely in the middle of the blockchain world and the existing infrastructure.
Cryptocurrencies, they have a valid role to play. How can you be sure that these exchanges are secure and transparent and also done in a way that doesn't replicate some of the drawbacks of today's payments infrastructure? So high cost, lack of standardization. And you start with the basic question, how many identities do we all on this conference today have, or any individual business? And the reality is hundreds. Around the topic of identity, which is the core of the trust, you are looking at still reliance on manual processing, a variety of identity schemes that are used throughout the world. And digital identity is indeed a solution to that.
We'll see more and more digital identity platforms start coming to prominence, but they're going to need to sit on the back of some payments infrastructure.
If you make a payment on a peer-to-peer network, how much do you want to disclose? And the simple way of looking at it is you probably want to send the details about who sent it and who the ultimate beneficiary is separate from the movement of the money. There's the movement of the money and there's the information to do the right thing with know your customer and all the rest. They don't necessarily have to be on the same network. Too much information can be a dangerous thing.
Let me take a swing at that from the regulator's perspective. Instead of demanding detailed reports from the banks that they try very hard not to fill in properly, I can just connect up my API to the central network and suck the data out in real time. And then I can relieve them of their reporting obligations because I'm getting the real juice here.
That's why people are concerned about CDBCs in China, right? Because of the privacy concerns.
The boiling ocean of fintech choice has created a lot of confusion for merchants. There is a race to the bottom on transaction acceptance fees. We're stuck, for better or worse, in their system where there's so many different things going on. A lot of merchants are struggling to tell the difference between, the different vendors out there. And if you're a merchant and you're looking out at this landscape, you don't know where to eat the elephant. this is great. I have this thing with, acquirer A and acquirer B, but I also need to be able to do C, D, E, and F. And I need to be able to plug things on and off as I choose in a way that doesn't cost me a lot. And I can't pick a winner today because the space is moving so fast. Customer satisfaction is great, but if you're moving the dial by like 0.5%, but it's going to cost you 200 grand to do it, you're just going to leave that opportunity behind.
The legacy market infrastructures are engaged on a multi-year step change exercise right now, going from batch-based solutions to real-time solutions. Real-time's not about being fast. Real-time's about fundamentally re-architecting the infrastructure, making them work in a digital world.
Actually, what they really want is they want liquidity. The liquidity part that banks do is extremely expensive.
While we might have a relatively consistent view for something like AML and CTF, the culture and regulatory infrastructure of a country is quite important to that country. What's acceptable in China will not be acceptable here.
It's actually the rules from the regulators that say who's allowed to play in the different payment systems. In the future, if you had wider access to either CBDC or a private equivalent like Finality, you could go into a trading screen and say, hey, I'm Swiss Bank, I got some Swiss francs, I need dollars. Who's got dollars available now? And you trade liquidity.
We will see a flip between, where the current global reserve currencies are in predominantly USD, but also a smattering of Euro and other big national currencies, will flip into a cryptocurrency, TBC, at which point do you need the banks? Because the value then is not a promissory note with a central bank, but it is a different kind of consensus of value.
We have an opportunity. We don't have to use blockchain, but it's got us all thinking. If we can do liquidity in new forms and connect up securities markets, payments capabilities in new ways, we'll reduce those costs. If we can solve for money, payment part, we can solve for many other things.
What we now all have in our heads as a bank is actually not going to look less and less useful as time goes on, because organizations will specialize into things that they do.
Their job is to move and allocate money and risk. We have a chance to build for better.